Tonight on CBC Vancouver News. How much more can the industry take?
There's nothing left. There's nothing left here, nothing left anywhere.
Farmers are very resilient, but we're still humans at the end of the day, and this is our livelihood.
Wild weather swings leave many Okanagan fruit farmers facing no crops this year. The drastic measures some are now taking. Plus, more boots on the ground in Surrey.
It shows that the transition is moving forward.
The city's new police service ramps up its presence with 10 new cars now patrolling the streets. Also, a legend, a voice, a friend.
People from all walks of life stopping in the grocery store, on the sidewalk, in a parking lot at a mall, and they just want to say thank you. And that really has been heartwarming.
Longtime CBC radio host Rick Kuuf passes away at age 74. The legacy he leaves, the lives he touched.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
Hello, I'm Tanya Fletcher. Thanks for joining us. We begin in the Okanagan, where we're getting a clearer picture of an industry's decimation. Many fruit farmers are facing a year with no crops. Frigid temperatures this winter severely damaged peach, nectarine, and cherry trees, and it's the latest in a spell of extreme climate events that have left growers struggling. As Brady Strachan is finding out, some producers are now having to pivot in an attempt to save their livelihoods.
So this is table grapes. We planted these this year.
Jennifer Diol is trying to salvage the growing season. There used to be trees in this field that grew the world's largest peach until an unprecedented cold snap this winter killed them off.
It's very tough. Like, if anything, farmers are very resilient, but we're still humans at the end of the day, and this is our livelihood.
BC has the most fruit farms in Canada. In a good year, orchards are loaded with crops like cherries and nectarines. But extreme weather the last few years has hit growers hard, from a record-setting heat dome to this year's cold.
These are just going to die in the heat, too. They won't survive.
Sukdeep Brar planted this orchard with his father 30 years ago. Golden peaches once grew in abundance. Now the branches hang lifelessly.
There's nothing left. There's nothing left here, nothing left anywhere.
Brar says he's getting calls every day from growers in the same situation. The mental strain is taking a toll.
We all deal with it. We don't talk about it in our community, but I think we need to start.
The BC government is trying to help, giving growers money to replant climate-hardy trees. But that doesn't change things this summer.
The bigger problem is getting through this year. You know, a lot of farmers have a lot of payments to make.
And these are coming from a grower that we've worked with for 10 years out of a soy use.
Only about a third of Okanagan cherries survived this year, but there are no peaches at all.
These are the Georgia peaches.
Janae Oliver had to import these ones from the U.S.
We just have to change. It's kind of that desperate times calls for desperate measures. Let's go.
Farmers are scrambling to pivot. This farm usually relies on tourists picking their own fruit. Now it's holding farm tours to bring people in.
Farming is kind of like that. You get through those bad years, and I know my grandparents have been through harder years than this.
Oliver is hoping buyers will shop local this summer. She says this year, more than ever, farmers need all the support they can get. Brady Strachan, CBC News, West Kelowna.
To Richmond now, where an alarming case of road rage turned into a shooting. It happened Friday on Hollybridge Way near the Olympic Oval. It was around 6 p.m. And it all started when the victim says he was driving near Alderbridge Road and Number 3 Road, and he was cut off by a Kia. He says he pulled up next to the Kia at the intersection of Alderbridge Way and Lansdowne Road and shouted at the driver. That's when the Kia driver allegedly pulled out a gun and started shooting before taking off. Now, the victim was not hit by any bullets, but he was injured by the glass shattering from his window.
Fortunately, this is an exceptionally rare circumstance and is not something that we see often. But, you know, it does speak to the potential risk posed to individuals who are involved in a road rage incident.
RCMP officers are now looking to speak with any witnesses or review any dash cam footage to help understand what exactly happened here. The Surrey Police Service says it has hit an important milestone for the policing transition, and the public will see it on the streets. As of today, 10 SPS-marked cruisers have started patrolling the city. Chad Pawson takes a look.
10 Surrey Police marked cruisers are officially on the road. SPS Chief Constable Norm Lipinski handed the keys over to his officers himself. Up until now, the more than 200 SPS officers deployed in Surrey drove RCMP-marked vehicles. Lipinski says having some of his own members driving SPS cruisers is a visible and positive sign for residents.
It shows that the transition is moving forward.
The transition has been full steam ahead since May. That's when a BC Supreme Court ruling put an end to a 2-year fight by Mayor Brenda Locke to stop it. Mayor Locke has cast doubt over the pace and details of switching forces, though, saying on June 10th, to be clear, we are in the infancy stages of this transition in terms of planning and confirming proper costing for taxpayers. The Surrey Police Service has an aggressive hiring campaign underway now. It's offering signing bonuses for experienced frontline officers. Lipinski admits it's hard to get boots on the ground in the city with his force.
We know across the country that there's some challenges in recruiting in the police profession. Many other organizations are doing this, and so now it's our turn to get in there and get some momentum going.
The force has a ways to go. In addition to today's 10 cruisers, SPS has hired 60 civilians and 367 officers. Of those, 225 are currently deployed. The force needs to get to 860 by 2027. Lipinski says there will be 30 SPS cruisers on the road by November 29th. That's when his force takes over command from the RCMP in Surrey. Chad Pawson, CBC News, Vancouver.
The Grouse Mountain gondola is open again, roughly 48 hours after coming to a sudden halt. Riders were stuck atop the mountain for some 5 hours Sunday afternoon. It was due to some sort of glitch in the operating system. A group of tourists blasted Grouse officials for a lack of communication. Some hikers decided to descend the mountain by foot. This tram is set to be replaced over the next year. Well, schools are now officially closed for the summer, and while some are celebrating, for other kids, summer holidays often means food insecurity. The latest First Call Child Poverty Report card finds 1 in 7 BC children was living in poverty in 2021. Now, kids who rely on meals provided at school are often unable to access proper food when schools let out for summer. Advocates say that's a big concern.
We've heard universally from children across the province that this means uncertainty, worry, dread, and a lot of fear, because schools are more than just a place where kids are learning and growing and playing. It is often a place of stability and knowing that there is a meal there for them.
Her group, Backpack Buddies, partners up with schools to deliver food to children in need on weekends. The organization has helped upwards of 6,000 students this school year alone. If you've walked down Water Street in Gastown over the past few days, you might have noticed something different. Fewer cars and more people. That's because the Water Street pedestrian pilot project launched over the long weekend. We went down to see what people think of it.
I love it. I think that Vancouver's needed a thing like this, a car-free street with good vitality like this for a long time.
We did a similar thing in St. John's, Newfoundland, where I'm from, and it was wonderful for local businesses.
It's great. I think you should get out of your cars more, take transit.
We as pedestrians, we love to walk slowly and watch the stores and maybe have something to eat, something to drink, and so it's great.
This is part of a pilot project by the City of Vancouver and will continue to run all summer long. This past Sunday marked 3 years since flames ripped through the town of Lytton, destroying most of the village and claiming the lives of 2 residents. It has been a very slow process to resurrect the town, but now homes and people are gradually starting to return. We caught up with one builder who says it's not just about rebuilding homes, but rebuilding communities.
My name is Mark Rempel. I'm in Lytton, British Columbia, and I volunteer with Mennonite Disaster Service as a project coordinator for our Lytton response. And right now I am a painter. We started building this house in the beginning of April. Flooring is done, all the trims are installed, and we're doing touch-up painting and just that to-do list that gets us across the finish line. So with Lytton, We typically would have a wooden deck. So as far as in the kind of the spirit of fire resiliency, we don't have any exposed wood on this house. So instead of a wooden deck, we poured concrete steps. So come on in, let's take a look. Okay, we have, this is the great room, which isn't a huge room. This is a 1,000 square foot house. Our clients were able to buy a used kitchen, and so our volunteers installed the kitchen. We have a light, kind of pine-colored engineered floor that we installed last week. We've got clear pine finishing. We have half a toilet, but this is the bathroom, and it has a sliding door that goes into the master bedroom. Typically, for a couple, we do a 2-bedroom house. And this particular house has hot water on demand and then a heat pump. It's very rewarding to help someone that, particularly in our case, we typically help people that don't have insurance. It's like we're part of rebuilding some hope. And actually with our volunteers actually living in town, it feels in a small way that we've been actually part of rebuilding community. And so the few people that live in town, mostly one couple, they drop by our house and they have dinner with us, or they invite some of our volunteers for tea. So it's really been part of, in a small way, trying to help rebuild a community.
Hard to believe that Lytton wildfire was 3 years ago already, but let's bring in our Darius Madavi with a look at the forecast. And Darius, it seems safe to say that it's been pretty quiet with fires so far this year, but that may well change starting this week.
Yes, that seems to be the case. We're getting hot and dry across the province. So right now we have 83 active wildfires across BC, the vast majority of those active up in the northeastern parts of the province, and any ones that are really active and growing are up in the northeast. The rest of these are very much under control. That could change in the days ahead, though. We're going to have this hot and dry weather, and with that is going to come those convective storms that could bring lightning and new fire starts. We're heading into the part of the fire season where we transition from mostly human-caused fires to mostly lightning-caused fire starts. So we have to be aware of that, especially as we get this hot, dry weather. We need to make sure that we're not causing any new fire starts, because the lightning will take care of that for us. Now, in terms of the fire danger across the province, still relatively low for the south, but very much rising up in the north. Expect that yellow and orange color to spread across the province in the days ahead. Right now, we do have plenty of lightning activity up in the northeastern parts of the province. Severe thunderstorm watch up here, up by Fort Nelson. But so far, we're seeing calmer than we have been in recent days. Down here in the southern parts of the province as well, severe thunderstorm watch in place, but as of yet, nothing too severe. But if we zoom out and look at the entire province in the days ahead, what we're really looking at is a very dry season, almost no precipitation in sight in the days ahead. So prepare for likely some more fire news on the days ahead.
Okay, we'll bring you back later in the show to talk about the forecast this week. Thanks so much, Darius.
Thank you.
A sad day for us here at CBC British Columbia and for many in the community. Longtime radio host Rick Kuuf has died. He spent 41 years with us here at the CBC, 20 of those at the helm of the early edition. Our Amy Bell has us look back on his life, his career, and his connection with you, the people of BC.
The toughest walk of the day is from the bed to the shower. Once you hit the shower, you're fine.
Rick Kuuf first joined the CBC in 1976 as a sports commentator and reporter before moving his family to the West Coast to take over the morning airwaves as host of the early edition. He then fell pretty hard and deeply in love with Metro Vancouver and its people. Rick quickly made lifelong connections off and on the air with his quick wit, his boundless curiosity, his respect and kindness. On the air, Rick had a knack for instinctively knowing just how to get people to open up to him and to level with him and to be honest with the audience. In any given show, he could spar with a pugnacious politician and then turn around to soothe a nervous first-time guest with a gentle smile.
It's incredible. I mean, it really is. It's something I've never experienced before. And I mean, Justin Orno was on the bus with us. And he said, you know, we're outside our comfort zones. He plays Major League Baseball, MVP. He was nervous. He welled up with tears when he got off the bus. And same with me.
Through his 41 years at CBC, Rick covered 8 Olympic Games and 5 Commonwealth Games. He went toe-to-toe with prime ministers and premiers and talked audiences through a terrorist attack in New York and a riot on Vancouver's streets. And he touched us all with memorable interviews with people that moved us, like Mr. Rogers and Terry Fox during his Marathon of Hope. But it was when the microphones turned off that Rick truly shone the brightest. There was not a laugh too loud, a bear hug too big, or a thoughtful gesture too small. He took pride in the countless journalists he helped mentor and take under his wing as honorary family. Nothing made Rick happier than seeing those around him thrive in their personal lives and their careers. And he never faltered in his support. Rick's love for his family was endless. His children, Mallory and James, were his greatest source of joy and pride. And when he discovered the love of his life and partner in Cecilia, her children, David and Calla, were equally adored, as were all of their grandchildren.
I've had people from all walks of life stop me in the grocery store, on the sidewalk, in a parking lot at a mall, and they just want to say thank you. And that really has been heartwarming.
It is so hard to imagine a world without Rick Clough, without his laugh and his light. But what a wonderful legacy he has left us all through his voice, his love, and his family. Rest easy, Clougher. We'll see you when it's dark and early.
Still to come, what are some price hikes that have hurt your wallet the most? We break down the reason for the recent inflation uptick. That's on the way next. Welcome back. Inflation is still top of mind for many as we head into summer. The needle moved slightly to 2.9% in May, up from 2.7% the month before, mainly due to higher prices for services. Our Shivani Joshi hit the streets of New Westminster to ask about the price hikes that have shocked people the most.
With inflation showing no signs of easing, we're here in New West trying to find out which price hikes have hit people's wallets the most.
Pokemon cards usually.
Pokemon cards?
Yeah.
They've gotten more expensive?
Yeah.
How much were they before?
Like, I think 50 or 52.
$50?
Yeah, like $52.
Okay, how much are they now?
69? Yeah, 69 probably.
I would say eyeglasses are quite expensive nowadays. The insurance doesn't cover it. Only gives like maybe 100 or 200 bucks, which is not enough. And it's a necessity, right? Like, I don't know, like 9 out of 10 people need eyeglasses. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people struggle to pay the eyeglass bills and other medical bills that come up. Yeah. A couple of years ago, it would just be around 300, but recently I paid 700 for it.
Some of the spices have gone up, so instead of doing that, I've turned around and gone over to the food place across the street, Natural, and they're cheaper over there.
What were the spices you were getting and how much were you paying before?
Oh, black pepper was really expensive. Across the street and everything else, it's reasonable.
Okay, how much was it before when it was reasonable?
It used to turn around be $2, $3, maybe $5, and now all of a sudden, sometimes it's gone up to $8 in some places, and it's just like, no. Not for a little tiny, like, you're price gouging.
So you're going to smaller businesses then?
Yeah, promoting locally.
Oh, I think everything's an unexpected price hike. I mean, even fast food's gone up.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe we can't get a meal less than $10 now at a fast food place, right?
Yeah.
So car repairs, it feels like I'm paying at least another 10, 20% now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I don't know what that is. Maybe it is that. Like, yeah.
Biking?
Yeah, or learning to fix my own car, I guess.
So let's dive deeper into why consumers might be seeing price hikes for these items. Lucas Herenbruick is an associate professor in economics at Simon Fraser University. He joins us now. Thanks for being with us.
Hello.
So first of all, what are the reasons certain consumer goods in particular, we heard those Pokemon cards or even eyeglasses, have seen significant price increases recently?
Yeah, so I think the number one misconception that people have about inflation is that inflation is the same for everything and for everybody. And that's simply not true. So inflation, 2.9% inflation right now, is an incredibly broad average. It covers the entire economy. 2.9% inflation for Canada does not mean 2.9% inflation for you. Your inflation rate could have been plus 10% because of the Pokemon cards that you've been investing. Your inflation rate could have also been minus 10% because some of the deals that we weren't seeing during the pandemic and supply chain issue years are coming back.
So break that down even further. You talk about how these price hikes can be attributed to, say, global market trends versus local market conditions. How do you parse those reasons?
Oh, it's pretty simple. So if you're talking about something specific like Pokemon cards or my favorite repair shop, that's always local. If you're talking about something specific, the reason is probably local. If you're talking about the economy as a whole, the reason is probably global because it's the average, it's everything. And, if we're looking at inflation in the United States, inflation in Europe, those are trends that pretty much parallel exactly what's happening here in Canada. So in that sense, there really isn't anything particularly local to a 2.9% increase in the cost of living as a whole.
Now let's apply that to your crystal ball and looking ahead. Do you see these price increases continuing, or do you think certain sectors will be affected more or less?
So forecasting is a fool's game, right? That's hopefully understood by everybody. But the one thing that we can, the other big misconception people have about inflation is that when the inflation is over, prices might be coming down. And that's simply not the case. Inflation means prices are going up. So the inflation is over when prices stop going up. It does not mean that the prices will ever come down, unfortunately. But the inflation is definitely easing. If we're looking at where it was 2 years ago, exactly right around this time, 2 years ago, it was 8%. 1 year ago, it was just over 3%. Right now, it's just under 3%. And I think we can be pretty confident that it's going to be between 2 and 3% over the next year, and anything else is a number you shouldn't bet your house on.
Good advice there. Well, we thank you so much for your expertise on this today. That's Lucas Herrenbruick, Associate Professor in Economics at Simon Fraser University, joining us. Up next, nearly 2 years later, the Canadian military walks back one of its newly changed dress code regulations. We'll tell you which one after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Ottawa Now. And the Canadian military has quietly walked back one of the most controversial changes to its relaxation of dress code regulations. That would be hair grooming. CBC's Murray Brewster has more in this exclusive report.
By traditional military standards, this is considered a bit scruffy.
I get to wear a pretty cool mustache now.
And that's why the military has moved to set some limits. It has amended its controversial grooming regulations, rules that were first relaxed in September 2022. The length of beards is now restricted to 2.5 centimeters, and hair for both men and women must be tied back away from the face and off the collar.
All right, bring it down there.
The relaxation of decades-old standards has been the subject of sometimes furious debate that has divided military members. This internal D&D survey, obtained by CBC News, shows just how deep the split runs when it comes to the overall relaxation of standards. Only about 33% feel as though the initial changes are good for the calf. 44% do not. Members of the Army, non-commissioned members, and men are generally less supportive. However, women and members of the 2SLGBTQ+ community say it makes them proud to serve. When the relaxed rules first came into effect, the military was at the height of the sexual misconduct crisis. Important context for this researcher who says that atmosphere contributed to cynicism among the troops.
It's quite hard to read those changes as outside of the political and social context where they happened, which was the sexual misconduct crisis and questioning of the military's equity, diversity, and inclusion record.
But a former senior commander disagrees, saying the changes were first discussed as far back as 2016 and intended to reflect the new overall face of Canadian society.
The Canadian Forces is still getting a sense of who it is culturally.
The argument against the relaxed standards, most often, is that it takes away from combat effectiveness. However, there is nothing in the research to back that up.
This has made some profoundly uncomfortable, based on the generation they come from. Others from a newer generation are completely at ease with it.
Most of Canada's allies ended this grooming debate several years ago. Many allow beards as long as they're trimmed. Hair is a different story, though. Most allied nations insist their troops be as clean-cut as possible. Murray Brewster, CBC News, Ottawa.
Overseas now, the shockwaves continue to roll through the American justice and political systems following yesterday's decision by the U.S. Supreme Court. The controversial ruling shields a president from prosecution for official actions while in office. As the CBC's Richard Madden tells us, the ramifications could be immense.
Both the current and former president are giving two starkly different reactions to that historic Supreme Court decision on presidential immunity. Not only has the High Court defined a whole new set of presidential powers, it also wrote official presidential acts cannot be used as evidence in a trial. Team Trump is celebrating the ruling that now shields him from any criminal prosecution while conducting official acts in office. It's a big win for him, but a major setback to his criminal case, where he's charged with trying to overturn the 2020 election and the violence leading up to January 6th. It also means that trial won't start until after Election Day in November. President Joe Biden, meantime, is sounding the alarms, warning if Trump is reelected, this court ruling would only embolden him to abuse the power of the office.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
Now we're already seeing the domino effect from this landmark decision. Prosecutors in New York have agreed to delay Trump's sentencing in that hush money conviction, initially set for next Thursday, so the judge can review the impact of this decision. Trump's lawyers argued his presidential tweets and testimony from his former White House staffer Hope Hicks were official presidential acts.
What we have in New York is a situation where a substantial number of official acts of the presidency, things that we believe are official acts, were used as evidence to support the charges in that New York trial. We believe that corrupts that trial, that indicates that jury verdict needs to be overturned, and at the very least, we deserve a new trial.
It's ultimately up to the judge to decide whether to postpone the sentence, but with both sides in agreement, it's expected he will. Now, presidential immunity could also impact Trump's classified documents case in Mar-a-Lago and the election subversion case in Georgia. Was Trump's call to its Secretary of State to, quote, find the votes, an official presidential act, or a private one? And while the court did not give Trump full immunity, Team Trump are taking victory laps. From a political, legal, and delay perspective, they appear to be winning the battle for now. Richard Madden, CBC News, Washington.
The Israeli military has conducted overnight airstrikes in the southern Gaza city of Han Yunis. It was in response to a rocket barrage launched from that area that Islamic Jihad claimed responsibility for. Civilians were ordered out before the Israeli strikes. At the United Nations, the delivery of aid to Gaza remains a top priority. As Jody Jacobs reports, one official says Israel needs to find solutions to allow safe delivery of aid, or else millions will go hungry.
The United Nations on Tuesday reporting another night of heavy bombardment across Gaza. The UN's senior humanitarian and reconstruction coordinator for Gaza, Sigrid Kaag, addressed a Security Council meeting where she again rang the alarm bells, describing the humanitarian situation in the enclave as a maelstrom of human misery. Kaag was designated by the Council in December to facilitate and monitor all humanitarian aid consignments into Gaza. She added that while a team has been working tirelessly to streamline and accelerate the delivery of humanitarian assistance, it has been fraught with challenges due to military activity and the lack of safe routes. That urgent flow of aid could soon be disrupted yet again as Israel directs Palestinians to evacuate parts of Han Yunis and Rafah.
In the subsequent closure of the Rafah border crossing in early May, the volume of aid entering into Gaza or being distributed across Gaza has dropped significantly. Military activity and the lack of safe routes inside Gaza continue to severely impact humanitarian operations. A near total breakdown of civil order has further led to an environment of lawlessness and criminality. This worrying trend further hampers the UN's ability to deliver on its mandate.
While many council members expressed grave concern about the humanitarian situation, some say increasing the humanitarian aid volumes alone is not the lasting solution. Only an immediate ceasefire will help. The Security Council in June adopted a ceasefire resolution, but it's yet to be implemented. The US representative telling the Council that while it has pressed Israel to improve humanitarian access, it's also up to Hamas to accept the ceasefire proposal. Security Council resolutions are legally binding, but they are often ignored. Jody Jacobs for CBC News at the United Nations in New York.
Up next, Hurricane Beryl is wreaking havoc in the Caribbean after suddenly intensifying to a Category 5 storm over the weekend. We'll have the latest after the break.
Hi, I'm Karis Hogg with the Early Edition, and I'm here chilling at Dude Chilling Park. Do you know why it's called Dude Chilling Park?
I have no idea. No, I do not.
No.
Well, you can Google it to find the answer. But there are a lot of other questions about Metro Vancouver that do require a little bit of newsroom investigation. And that's why this summer, the Early Edition is introducing Ask Us Anything, Metro Vancouver. Here's how it works. You send us your questions about your city, neighborhood, community, and our crack team of producers here at the Early Edition will do our best to get you the answers.
Don't worry, we'll figure that out for you.
So, Metro Vancouverites, come at us with your questions, like these.
Why is the Lionsgate Bridge only 3 lanes?
I always wonder why all of the stores and bars close so early.
Why we have so few dog-friendly zones or areas in the city.
Metro Vancouverites, send us your questions. Ask us anything, Metro Vancouver.
The powerful and deadly Hurricane Beryl is now closing in on Jamaica. It peaked as a dangerous Category 5 storm before being downgraded to Category 4 and has already slammed into several islands in the southeastern Caribbean. The CBC's Nicole Mortellero is tracking Beryl's path.
Hurricane Beryl has left a wake of destruction in its path. The tropical storm developed late Friday night, but quickly intensified into a Category 4 hurricane by Sunday, passing over the small islands of Barbados, Grenada, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, knocking out power to hundreds of thousands of people and leaving at least 6 dead.
The reports that I have received indicate that 90% of the houses have been severely damaged or destroyed.
The storm soon became a Category 5, the strongest kind on the scale, and it set a record for how fast it got there.
It sets a precedent for what we fear is going to be a very, very, very active, a very, very dangerous hurricane season.
What's driving Hurricane Beryl is the warm ocean temperatures. Over the past 14 months, the oceans have been the warmest they've ever been, with the Atlantic Ocean 1.5 degrees higher than normal.
These warm sea surface temperatures that are being driven in part by human-caused climate change allow these storms to have a lot of growth potential, a lot of ability to spin faster and faster.
Now, residents of Jamaica are preparing for Beryl, which is forecast to remain a major hurricane as it makes landfall. Only a month since the hurricane season started, and with 3 months to go. Nicole Mortellero, CBC News, Toronto.
And let's bring in our Darius Madavi. Darius, we can't say we weren't warned. I remember we were recently told that this would be one of the worst hurricane seasons to expect.
Yes, that's right. And this is really what we've been seeing. Now, this hurricane has set several records already, and we're only expecting it to set more. And I don't seem to be able to control anything on here, so that's fine. Let's talk about the fact that this is a strengthened from a Category 1 to a Category 4 hurricane in less than 10 hours. That is almost unheard of. This is one of the few times we've seen a hurricane go from a tropical storm to a full-fledged major hurricane in less than 2 days. This only happened 6 times in the entire record we have of hurricanes in the Atlantic. This has been a very serious event. It's also the earliest we've ever seen a hurricane of this magnitude. As you can see here, we're expecting it to still make impact in some major places. So the Dominican Republic has a tropical storm warning issued along the coast, as well as a hurricane watch up here in Jamaica, a hurricane warning across the entire coast of the island, because it is expected to make landfall there as either a Category 4 or Category 3 hurricane. Either way, it could very well be devastating. We're talking winds well in excess of 200 kilometers per hour, regardless of which category it makes landfall as. It's then going to continue to make its way over to Mexico as well. Now, I still don't seem to be able to move this forward, but that's okay. We can still talk about the weather here in BC. We're expecting to see some more very high temperatures in the days ahead. Very little precipitation is on the way, even as we continue to see those temperatures warm up. Now, we're going to see, again, as that ridge of high pressure builds in, nothing but sunny skies in the days ahead. Temperatures are going to climb to well above seasonal across much of the province. In the southern interior, temperatures well into the mid to high 30s here on the coast. Inland sections could see temperatures to the low to mid 30s, but even here by the water, temperatures will hover right around 25, 26 degrees from the weekend into early next week. But despite that, we're going to expect to feel those temperatures really start to come up towards the end of the weekend, because they're going to feel a lot warmer as we continue to see this ridge of high pressure built in. We see these high temperatures. The surface water of the Strait of Georgia warms up, and then we get more of that water being evaporating into the air, and then we start to see more humidity. So expect Saturday to feel to be 25 degrees and feel like 25 degrees. By the time we get into next Monday, next Tuesday, it's going to be feeling like 30 degrees because of that humidity. So usually the Strait, makes it more temperate here in Vancouver. That's not going to be the case this time around. Besides that, we're going to see some convective storms start to pop up throughout the interior as we see that heat sort of heat up the ground, and we see those storms form. For tomorrow, most of that is in the southern interior, the southeast, and in the northeast, but we'll expect to see it across the interior at times right through the end of this week.
Well done with no graphics. Thank you so much for that weather forecast, Darius.
Thank you.
Well, the tradition of the horseback ride to the popular Williams Lake Stampede has been rekindled in recent years by the Chilcotin Nation. The First Nation says it's geared towards young people and meant to build community. Take a look.
Traditionally, the Williams Lake Stampede has always been a big part of our nation. Our members used to always come in from the time the rodeo started, and for many years our people rode horses into the Stampede and participated in the Stampede. We were a horse culture people. We all own horses and we grew up on horses, and that way of life seemed to be dying off, and this is also an attempt to try to revive that culture. We start with the ride into Williams Lake, a 3-day ride. We spend it out as much as we can, make it a 5-day event. And
when we're not doing the ride, I do have livestock. I cattle. Yeah. And she helps me chase my cattle to the range, and if we have to sort, she helps me sort. So she's pretty good. It gets me out on the land, away from my computer work and stuff, because I do work in the office also. So just to ground myself with the horse. We gear for the youth to get away from the technologies and alcohol and drug prevention also, because a lot of our youth, that's where they're pulling towards. So we do this for the youth.
Just learning how to do everything, like cinch a horse up, saddle it, put a halter on and stuff like that, and learning how to ride better.
A lot of these kids and youth, this is the only time they'll get a chance to camp out during the year. So they all look forward to it, and it's community time. It's everybody wants to belong to something, a cause or a group, and we provide that for them. And not everybody's into horses, so we added bikes. So we have every year probably about 100 bicycle riders as well. It's a chance just to have fun together and to remember the origins of the Stampede and what our people used to do to get here.
Well, still ahead, are you one of the many drivers out there who dreads parallel parking? We'll take you through a master class in the maneuver with one of our very own coming up next.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
CBC returns as a media partner of the Surrey Fusion Festival, July 20th to the 21st. The festival features over 50 cultural pavilions that will incorporate the theme of landmarks of the world into their displays. For more information, visit surreyfusionfestival.ca. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter and keep connected with us.
Welcome back. A recent ICBC survey of drivers shows parallel parking is by far the most dreaded maneuver. It finds many motorists are willing to drive around to look for a different spot just to avoid parallel parking.
Have done that. Our Gurpreet Kambo is one of those drivers, which is why the early edition sent him out with a driving instructor to learn how to parallel park properly. Here's how it turned out.
Hi, I'm Gurpreet.
Oh, hi. I'm Sean McDonald from Atlas Driving School. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, thank you. So I am a little nervous today, actually, to be honest. So basically, I'm absolutely hopeless at parallel parking, and I'm hoping that you can teach me how to do that.
I can do that for sure, so there's no need to hope. It's a sure thing.
Okay.
I got you. Perfect. So now you're all started up.
Yeah.
How are your mirrors? So at this corner here, let's make a right turn.
Okay. I know I did it successfully at least once because I passed my driver's test. But I would say largely since then, I've avoided parallel parking, and I will drive around to find a spot where I don't have to parallel park. A lot of people do that, or?
Well, my sisters do. Parallel park has this myth. It's an urban myth that surrounds it as to its degree of difficulty and how important it is and all that. But if you think about it, it's the easiest and least dynamic driving skill there is.
ICBC did a survey recently, right? And so they surveyed people's most feared and most disliked driving maneuvers. And so, of course, predictably, parallel parking came out on top. So you don't think it's the hardest maneuver?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Right here.
What is the hardest maneuver?
Well, I would say typically turning left at a busy intersection.
Is it more about anxiety than about how challenging they are?
In many cases, yeah, I think so. I think people, I think because they have this feeling already that the parallel park is difficult, that by itself makes them anxious. It creates anxiety. They've already defeated themselves even before they've learned to do it.
You pull in, and it's really hard to get the right angle, right?
Right.
So you kind of get close, and then you're like, oh, that wasn't right. And then you pull back out, you do it again. I found myself doing it sometimes 4 or 5 times. My friends are in the car, it's a little embarrassing, right? And so sometimes I've just decided, forget this, and then go somewhere else and find a different parking spot where I didn't have to parallel park.
That sounds really stressful, frustrating, and way too much work.
I'm going to show you my parallel parking skills first.
Okay, sure.
Pizza slice, kind of. That's kind of a pizza slice. 45 degrees, I think it is. I'm too far from the curb, I think. Evaluate my first attempt here.
So first of all, you, in my opinion, you started too far ahead. So that you had to waste too much time and space backing up and worrying about this car.
I'll try this again. This is my second attempt. How far am I from the curb now?
About, well, your car is slanted. The rear end is pointing into the street.
Try this again. 45-degree pizza slice.
And stop.
Okay.
And that's better.
So that was a pretty good one, but it took me 3 tries on my own. Okay. All right. Was that one okay? Would I get a ticket for that?
No. Okay, good. Now, signal right in advance.
Signal right.
Okay, and I'll talk you through this one really quickly. Good. So come a little bit closer. Good. And stop here. See, when actually you can go a little bit more. That's good. Perfect. Yeah. So see, when you started your parallel park, you went all the way up to the front,
right?
Which works to your disadvantage because then you have to worry too much about this person when you're trying to cut your pizza slice.
Right.
So now go to reverse.
Reverse.
Put your right signal on.
Okay.
Check your left shoulder. Make sure nobody's coming down the street because when you do this, the front end of your car is swinging towards the middle of the street.
Right.
So you want to make sure nobody's coming up alongside you on a bicycle or something like that.
Right. So I check the mirror.
Yes.
Check over my shoulder. There's
Indeed.
nobody coming.
Perfect. Now, release your brake pedal slowly and turn quickly to the right. Good. And off brake. So the car is always moving. It never stops. Just keep moving. Keep cutting that pizza slice as you mentioned till you're 45 degrees in, which is about good now. Now keep moving. And now turn quickly to the left, fast as you can, all the way left. And now just come back slowly. That's right. Keep coming. Let it finish. Let it finish. And stop. Good. In the park.
In the park.
Bang. There's your parallel park. You're right in, tight as a bug in a rug. One smooth motion. From the time you started that parallel park, the car never stopped until you got right in here.
That's it?
That's it. That is it. That's it. 6 days a week, twice on Sunday. There it is.
Honestly, that was much simpler than I've been building it up in my head.
For sure.
Why was that so much easier than it felt like it would be?
Well, because I think I gave you simple, workable steps that basically obliterated the myth. Because what was the first thing you said after you did the first one? You're like, wow, well, that's it?
Right.
See, that's the response I like when I do when I show somebody how to parallel park. After we've done it, you're like, wait a minute, that's it? Yes, that's it.
Right.
You don't have to listen to the myth that's being perpetuated all the time about how difficult parallel parking is. So long as you have that car length and a half that you need, you set it up just as we did, and it's one smooth motion.
Right. I do think that I can do this on my own.
Perfect. That's great. That's great. Mission accomplished.
Mission accomplished.
Because you told me at the beginning that your hope was to be able to parallel park at the end of this. I said, well, there's no need to hope because we're going to get it done.
Right.
And there you go.
I thought I was hopeless.
You're not hopeless.
I think we need a parallel park off, you and me, after watching that. We'll see who wins.
I'm not taking you up on that. Thanks for being with us tonight on CBC Vancouver News at 6. You can watch this newscast on CBC Gem, our free app, as well as on YouTube and cbc.ca/BC.
And Jessica Chung will have your next local newscast here at 11, right after the National. Thanks for being with us. Have a good night.
Good night.